Father who wants to bring his son home. I am not a politician, as you know, or a diplomat, or a representative of the State of Israel in any way. My son Gilad was violently abducted by Palestinian Hamas from sovereign Israeli territory more than 5 years ago, actually 1900 days ago, while serving in the Israeli Defense Forces. His unit was in a defensive position when he was taken hostage. He was just 19 years old at that time. Hamas has now held Gilad hostage for more than 1900 days. Not a moment has gone by when he have not felt the terrible pain of our separation. Every member of my family goes to sleep at night with the anguish of not knowing where Gilad is or how he is doing. We pray for his safety, we fear for his life. During the 5 years during which Gilad has been held in captivity, we have received 3 notes from him, an audio tape and a videotape. The last sign of life we received from him was in September 2009. That was 2 years ago. Today we have no information about his health. We do not even know if he is alive. Hamas' treatment of Gilad is a grave violation of international humanitarian law. He has been held completely incommunicado. He has been held without the opportunity to contact his family. He has not received a single visit from a doctor or representative of the Red Cross. Hamas holds him as a human bargaining chip for the purpose of extortion. This is classified as a war crime under international law. I came to New York this week to speak with representatives of governments from around the world about the continued violation of my son's basic rights by Hamas. This week, I have met or will meet with senior officials of the United Nations and representatives from the US, the UK, Russia, France, Italy, and many other states. I greatly appreciate the reception that I have received from so many leaders. In particular, I would like to thank U.S. Permanent Representative Susan Rice, who issued a strong press statement calling for the immediate and unconditional release of Gilad. Soon, there will likely be a vote on the Palestinian request to upgrade their status at the United Nations. In every meeting here in New York, I have offered a reminder that the leadership of the Palestinian Authority signed a coalition agreement with Hamas last April. The Palestinian Authority cannot be allowed to ignore the commission of a grave breach of international humanitarian law by its coalition partner at the same time that it seeks the legitimacy and the recognition of the international community. My family is calling on all members of the international community to demand that Palestinian Authority demonstrate its commitment to upholding international law. It must do so by assuming responsibility for Gilad and acting with determination to ensure his immediate and unconditional release. We hope that the United Nations, as the conscience of the world, will stand up for our son's human rights by making his precondition for his release explicit. It is impossible to describe the suffering that my family and I have endured for more than 5 years. Our son and brother has been deprived of a voice to speak out, so we must speak out on his behalf. We count on the UN member states to raise their voices on behalf of Gilad and to do everything that they can to bring him home. Thank you for your attention. I will be happy to take any question that you have.
Yes, please. Yes. I'll have to post contributor. Are there indirect negotiations going on, sir, between Israel and Hamas in Egypt? There are reports in the Israeli press of that, attributed to Palestinian sources. Do you know of this, or do you have any information?
Well, what I can tell you is that there are attempts from the Egyptians, the Egyptians' new administration, to take the lead again regarding the negotiations between Israel and the Hamas after they were in charge of these negotiations in the first 3 years, from 2006 until 2009. But so far we haven't got any news about any breakthrough or any development.
Yes, please.
I see from Sky News. There are many political prisoners anywhere in the world, especially in Iran, and the families cannot see them for many, many years. How come you can come to the UN, but they cannot even send a letter here?
Well, if I may answer this,
yes.
I would like to say that, first of all, we're not coming here in the name of a state, nor the state of Israel and nor any state. We're here as a family asking for humanitarian help, which is any prisoner of war deserve it. We're not saying that because we deserve it, someone else doesn't.
Hostage.
So that's for one thing. The second thing is that according to international definitions of humanitarian law, Gilad is not held as a prisoner of war. He's held as a hostage for bargaining and extortion, which is very different from other situations. And I really want to put that emphasis on this distinction between the situations. Yes, please.
Thank you. I know that the relationship between Turkey and Israel has deteriorated over the last few weeks, even more than how it was. We also know that the Turkish Prime Minister was somehow involved in, your case. Can you brief us on whether you are actually still talking to Turkish Prime Minister?
Well, unfortunately, I cannot. First of all, we are not, as you are told, we are not represent here the views of Israel, or we are not trying to solve the regional problems in the Middle East. I cannot. I don't know about any involvements of Turkish Prime Minister in this crisis. There was several contacts between Israel and Turkish regarding these contacts, but currently, as I told the lady here, the Egyptians took the lead again, and they are now doing some efforts to bring a deal between Israel and the Hamas.
Yes, please.
I mean, my name is Masood Haider. I represent Daily Dawn of Pakistan. Okay, it is absolutely understandable why a father or a mother would make a compassionate appeal for release of their son. Absolutely, and you're given a forum, an international forum over here, because the Israeli government sponsored this thing, which is all understandable. I think everybody would say, but what about, would you be as compassionate or as understanding of Palestinian women and children who are in Israeli jails, for languishing in Israeli jails for sometimes in the case 8, 9, 10 years? What about them? Have you ever thought about those Palestinian prisoners also? I mean, I'm sure in Israel there are voices which are asking for these. Would you ask for their release also?
Well, first of all, thank you for your question.
Okay.
I will just briefly say something and I'll hand it to Noam. I would just like to say that once again, the fact, like I said before, the fact that we are fighting for a family member who is in jail and is held in very bad conditions with actually incommunicado for over 5 years is very different from what the Palestinian prisoners in Israel situation is. I'm not going to go too much into politics because we're not politicians. We're not here to solve problems in the Middle East. We're here on a humanitarian mission.
Yes.
Well, first of all, as far as I know, there are no Palestinian children in Israeli jails. There are a lot of Palestinian prisoners, both women and men, in in Israeli jail, but not children. Secondly, I would like to mention that Israel is not asking. Israel is ready to release 1,000 Palestinian prisoners in exchange of my son. So Israel is not asking Gilad for free. Israel is ready to release 1,000 Palestinian prisoners. That was the last German proposal that was put on the table of both Israel and Hamas last February. But unfortunately, the Hamas, the Palestinians rejected this generous proposal. And it was not the first proposal. There were several proposals during these 5 years. And many Palestinian prisoners could have been at home 3 years ago or 2 years ago, but unfortunately any deal was rejected by the Palestinians. I can tell you another thing, that after a deal will be carried out, hopefully very soon, Israel will be able to release many other Palestinian prisoners that, from my point of view, are not relevant anymore. But the captivity of Gilad prevents the release of many Palestinian prisoners, unfortunately.
Yes, please.
Yes. Sorry, Giampaolo Pioli of La Nazione, the Italian nation. And from the humanitarian point of view, being at the UN, are you planning to meet the Palestinian Authority when they come for the General Assembly? Are you still here? Do you have time? Do you have something to say to them? Because the fact that you enter in a negotiation without representing any Israeli state or that, and you say that, you know, the 1,000 against 1 is not for free. Other people can say 5,001 is a better deal, is not for free, can happen. That's what I'm saying. Do you have a message for the Palestinian Authority, being an indirect channel as a father of
Well, I won't stay to the GA because I have to live back to Israel, unfortunately. But we made some attempts to meet here the Palestinian observer, but unfortunately he denied our request. But I would say that resolving this crisis and releasing our son, it's for the benefits. First of all, it's the Palestinians themselves will benefit it, because first of all there will be many Palestinian prisoners that will be released, and secondly, as I told you, as a first step towards the Palestinian request for receiving international community legitimacy or recognition, for the first step is to comply and to abide the international law and stopping this grave breach of international law. This is for their own sake, for their own benefits.
Yes, please, in the back.
Melissa Kent, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. It's sort of a follow to what you were just saying, and I'm wondering, as a father, if you think that the recognition of Palestinian statehood would help or hurt the chances of your son's release.
Well, from my point of view, as I told the Mr. here, resolving this issue will benefit, first of all, the Palestinians themselves, because, as I mentioned before, they cannot, in one hand, seeking for legitimacy and recognition of the international community or membership in the United Nations, and the second hand, perpetuating this major and grave violation of international law. It doesn't go together, just simple as that.
But as a member state, they would have to, they would fall under certain guidelines, certain rules. So I'm wondering if you think that would help your son's release.
We are not willing to wait until there will be any vote in the United Nations, any resolutions in the United Nations. They have to stop it now before they are appealing to the international community.
Est-ce que je peux demander la même question en français? Vous parlez français?
Oui, but I prefer in English.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Thank you. My name is Ali Barada from An-Nahar newspaper in Lebanon. I want first to acknowledge your personal grief, and I want to ask you also whether you have made any attempts to contact Palestinian parents who have cases like yours. You know, there are thousands maybe of Palestinians in the Israeli prisoners. Have you made any effort to contact them to merge a unified humanitarian effort in this regard? Thank you.
Yes, several. We made it several times. We tried to appeal to the Palestinian families, but unfortunately, in the Gaza Strip, they are not allowed to express their views or to make any contacts with Israelis. And in the West Bank, well, you know that the PA, the Palestinian authorities, are not in favor of any deal with the Hamas that will benefits them. So it's not so easy to contact the Palestinian families. But we appealed many times for the Palestinians in general for their own sake, for their own benefits, to resolve this issue. And as I told you, we believe that hundreds and thousands of Palestinian prisoners will be able to be at home. Because this captivity of my son is really a bottleneck between within the relationship between Israel and the Palestinians. Once it will be removed, we believe that many other issues will be able to be in progress and to move forward.
Yes, please.
George Baumgarten, correspondent for Jewish newspapers in North America. Two questions, sir, if I may. First, can you tell us about some of your contacts with the Red Cross and other international organizations? I know the Red Cross attempted to visit your son but was rebuffed by the Hamas de facto government in Gaza. That and any other organizations with whom you have contact. Secondly, can you give us a little bit of background about your son? What are his interests and what had been his hopes or aspirations? What had been his intentions? What did he want to do after he completed his service in Sahel in the IDF?
Well, for the second, I will start with the second question. Unfortunately, he didn't manage to make many plans because he had just graduated high school and joined the army. As you know, it's in Israel. The military service is obligatory. It's compulsory by law, and he have just graduated high school and joined the army and managed to serve less than a year. So I don't think he had many plans in his mind, and unfortunately, so many time has passed. We don't know him anymore. He was under 20 when he was captured, when he was kidnapped by the Hamas, and he was a young boy. Now he's over 25 years old. So it's hard to say, to describe what, you know that 1/5 of his young life he spent in the prison of the Hamas with no sunlight, with no communication with anybody except his captors, with no human rights, no nothing. No. So it's very difficult to us to imagine what he is passing through. For your first question, the Red Cross, the International Committee of the Red Cross is constantly trying to get an access to Gilad, but unfortunately the Palestinians keep rejecting, denying their request. They keep denying any access to him. And this is very regretful because this is, as I told you, it's a very, very grave and very grave violation of humanitarian law.
Yes, please, maybe in the back.
Yeah, Carmen Maria Rodriguez of Radio Marti. Carmen Maria Rodriguez of Radio Marti. I wanted to ask you, I know that you're not representing the Israeli government, but do you know if the International Committee for the Red Cross has access to the Palestinian prisoners in Israel? And my second question to you is, if you read the reports that your son was fasting during Ramadan, and what your comments are in that regard?
Well, Israel allows Red Cross representative to visit a Palestinian prisoner in jail, as Israel is signed the third Geneva Convention, and Israel obliged to this and committed to the Geneva Convention. Israel allows also visits of legal advisor or lawyers for the Palestinian prisoners, and of course family visits. First,
on weekly basis.
On a weekly or monthly basis, except the prisoners of Gaza, which are the minority of the prisoners, because of from 2007, when the Hamas took over the Gaza Strip and expelled the Palestinian Authority from Gaza Strip, so there are no transition between Gaza and Israel. מה הייתה השאלה השנייה? מה זה? החזקה של מה? לא שונה. What was your second question, please?
I had read reports that Hamas had issued a statement saying that Gilad Shalit was fasting for Ramadan. And the reason why I asked this is because you were saying he spent the 5th of his life in captivity, and there was a child you knew once who may have...
I have, I don't have any confirmation for this information. It's, of course, it might be rumors or any kind of information. There are a lot of, the Palestinians there are many attempts of psychological war against the family of Gilad in order to exert pressure on the family, to put pressure on the Israeli government. But so in the years there were many rumors, many information that they released, but we don't have any confirmation for any of these messages.
Yes, please.
Can we do one in Hebrew?
English.
English? Okay. Yoni Helsh Yisrael Hayom. I wanted to know if you can tell us a bit about the responses you got from the various delegations you met, and according to that, how much you think the subject of Gilad is going to be present here in the GA.
Well, The ambassadors and heads of mission that we met and UN officials, all of them agreed with our views mostly, and they had nothing to argue with us about what we have presented to them. Everybody agrees that the abductions of our son with no human rights is against the international humanitarian law, and everybody everybody agrees that the Palestinians should comply with and obey the international law as a first step before they are going to appeal or seek for the international recognition, any international recognition or becoming a member in the United Nations. Sorry?
You think they'll demand that of the Palestinians?
Well, they promised that they will convey these messages to their capitals, to their leaders, and we asked them that in every discussion with the Palestinian leaders that probably will come here next week or the week after, they will raise this issue and will demand from the Palestinian leaders to end this ordeal. And by the way, we are not, as a family, we are not opposing or rejecting or against the Palestinians' request. We are not taking any position in this matter. We are in favor of Palestinian state, two states for two people living side by side peacefully. So we are not taking any position about the Palestinian request.
Yes, sir.
My name is Doğan Uluç, Hürriyet Turkish Daily. I fully sympathize with you that you are in trouble of when you remember your son, when you go to bed and you pray for him and then you wonder where is your son. A year ago, a Turkish ship was raided by Israeli commandos and 9 unarmed Turkish civilians were killed, most of them execution style. And since your Prime Minister doesn't bother to apologize to the Turkish government, as a father and as an Israeli person, do you have any comment about this situation?
Well, no. As I told you, we are not representing we are not representing Israel government. I know that there were several attempts to resolve this dispute between Israel and Turkish, and we hope that it will be two governments will manage very soon to resolve this issue based on the United Nations Parliament report. That's all I can comment about that.
Pamela Falk from CBS. Ambassador Rice said yesterday that the International Red Cross has had no access to your son. Has there been any official channels from the UN or anyone else to try? What is the continuing negotiation to try to get the International Red Cross in to see him?
Well, I'm not sure that the UN is involved in these attempts of the Red Cross to get an access to Gilad. But we keep urging people or leaders of the officials in the UN, like we met here today. We met this morning Baroness Valerie Amos, head of UCHA, and I can tell you that she was, although she has grave criticism on Israel, but in this matter she was completely she agreed to us. She completely agreed with us and promised us that she will use all her channels and to urge the Palestinian, first of all, to comply with the international humanitarian law.
Yes, please.
Yeah, sure. I wanted to ask you about first about this about the letter that's been passed out.
Your name, please.
I'm sorry, Matthew Lee, Inner City Press. And I wanted to you say that we demand that the recognition of Palestine as a UN member state be preconditioned on a UN monitored undertaking to release your son. And so, I mean, in your answer about responses from delegations, this seems to be directed almost at people that would be predisposed to vote in favor, at least in the GA, of a Palestinian request to become an observer state. Have you gotten, from these kind of countries, I mean, have you met with countries that are known to be supportive of such a request by the Palestinians? And is there some idea of putting it into a GA resolution, a mention of your son, to somehow precondition it? And finally, your letter cites the Rome Statute of the ICC. If they became a state, potentially they could join the ICC, maybe they would refer Israel, but by the same token, the case of Gaza, for example, would involve your son. Do you think them being a member of the ICC might make it more likely that the idea that it is a war crime would be, implemented, accepted, ruled on, and followed through on?
Well, I cannot foresee so far, regarding the ICC or something like that, but as I told you, before joining the international community and before joining the UN institutions or international institutions, they should first of all obey the international law. That's I think it's very basic. Regarding your first question, our interlocutors, the ambassadors and others, promised us just to convey these messages to their leaders, to their capitals, and in order that they will raise this issue when they will meet the Palestinian leaders here in the United Nations. And I cannot be sure about what they will be demanding exactly, or if there will be any resolution that this issue will be inside it. But anyway, it will be raised here in the United Nations, and it will be this issue will be in high focus here in the United Nations. In the context of the Palestinians' request here.
I would just like to add that. Concerning your question, and maybe the lady in the back also, we don't have official as a family stand in favor or against the Palestinian state. We do support any peace process that will achieve a peaceful life for Israelis and Palestinians. I do believe that any kind of entity that the Palestinian will gain from this September process means also the responsibility. It doesn't mean only rights that the Palestinians are getting from the UN. It means also taking the responsibility for things that happen inside their territory. Now, I think even though it's not clear what they're asking for, it's quite clear that the Palestinian Authority is asking for to be the representative of all Palestinians, means the Palestinian in the West Bank and also in the Gaza Strip. And that means that they also bear the responsibility for everything that goes in the Gaza Strip as well, and that is where Gilad is being held. So we believe that they will also have to be taking care of this issue, whatever entity they will gain here in the UN.
Ken Benny.
Benny Avni of Israel Radio and New York Post. You said before that the Palestinian ambassador declined to see you. Did they explain? Did they have any reason for why not meeting you, or how did that exchange take place?
No, I'm not familiar with the details, but all I was told that. שמה?
It was a negative answer with no explanation.
Did you request the meeting or someone else?
We, of course, as a family, cannot approach missions of other member states.
We appealed.
We appealed.
We appealed for through the French ambassador here in the UN.
Rejected. Yes, please, in the back.
And I have a follow-up on that. What was the message for the Palestinian ambassador? I mean, maybe you can even use this venue to say something to it.
The same message as I described here, for their own benefits, for their own sake, they should stop this violation of international law. And for the sake of many Palestinian prisoners that will be released when they will accept the swap deal of prisoners. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Yeah.